Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Sadashishi Mad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Sadashishi Mad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sigaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadi Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's transcendental book distribution and Dive Varnashram farm communities Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 48. Somebody pull it up. Yaha evam etāṁ hari-medhasaḥ hareḥ kathāṁ su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta va uśatīm janārdanaḥ asya śṛāśu hṛdi prasīdati evam etāṁ hari-medhaso evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathām su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ kathām su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ. Sorry. śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati ya evam etām hari-medhaso kathām su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati ya evam etām hari-medhaso kathām subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati
ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathāṁ su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati
janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati
ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso
ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso
subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ
kathāṁ subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ
śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ
śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ
janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathām subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ
kathāṁ subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ
śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ
śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathāṁ subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathāṁ subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati. Mothers? Ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso kathāṁ subhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati. Yaha, one who, evam, thus, etām, this, hari-medhasaḥ, who destroys the material existence of the devotee, hareḥ, of the personality of Godhead, kathāṁ, narration, su-bhadrāṁ, auspicious, kathanīya, worthy to narrate, māyinaḥ, of the merciful by his internal potency, śṛṇvīta, hears, bhaktyā,
bhaktyā,
in devotion.
in devotion.
Śṛavayeta,
Śṛavayeta
also allows others to hear.
also allows others to hear.
Either. Uśatīm, very pleasing. Janārdanaḥ, the Lord. Asya,
Asya,
his.
his.
Ashu, very
Very
soon.
soon.
Hṛdi,
Hṛdi,
within the heart.
within the heart.
Prasīdati,
prasīdati,
becomes very pleased.
become very pleased.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. Purport. In his various incarnations, the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind him a narrative history which is as transcendental as he himself. Every one of us is fond of hearing some wonderful narration, but most stories are neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they are of the inferior quality of material nature. Every living entity is of superior quality, spirit, soul, and nothing material can be auspicious for him. Intelligent persons should therefore hear personally and cause others to hear the descriptive narrations of the Lord's activities, for that will destroy the pangs of material existence. Out of his causeless mercy only, the Lord comes to this earth and leaves behind his merciful activities so that the devotees may derive transcendental benefit. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadama Hyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshri Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivikasa Swaminiti Namane Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Pashchati Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru Tasya Te Katita Yata Prakashanti Mahatmana Ya evam etāṁ hari-medhaso hare kathām su-bhadrāṁ kathanīya-māyinaḥ śṛṇvīta bhaktyā śravayeta vośatīṁ janārdano syāśu hṛdi prasīdati. So, if one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. So we're getting towards the end of this chapter here about Lord Boar, Lord Varaha, and we've heard his pastimes coming and rescuing the earth from the bottom of the ocean and killing this demon, Hiranyaksha. And now we're getting to this, to the end of the chapter, like I said, and this verse talks about the benefits of hearing this narration. And so we see all over the Bhagavatam, all over Vedic literatures, this comes at the end of sections, different pastimes, different sections. And anybody know what the name of this kind of verse is called in Sanskrit? Yeah, Phalashruti, exactly. So do you know what that means? Phala? Fruit. Yeah, so the fruit. So what is the fruit of hearing such pastimes is described in these Phalashrutis. And like I said, they come so often. We see in pretty much every different pastime in the Bhagavatam at the end of the chapter will be, this is the auspicious result that comes about by hearing such pastimes, that all of our, karma gets eradicated, or we develop qualities like the devotees that are being described, etc., etc. And here, something very, very nice is being described as the fruit of listening to this specific pastime, which is that we can please the Lord, actually. And it's understood, of course, in our philosophy that giving pleasure to the Lord is actually the topmost goal. We shouldn't be after our own sense gratification, our own pleasure, separate from the Lord. And while we are pleasure-seeking entities, it's natural for us to seek that pleasure. We are not the primary enjoyer. We're not the primary ones to enjoy anything, but we are instead, on the contrary, we are secondary enjoyers. So we enjoy most, and actually we can only truly enjoy when we give pleasure to the Lord as a secondary enjoyer. By seeing Him being pleased, we become pleased as well naturally. But it's not that we are simply seeking for our own pleasure. So this is obviously a very, very auspicious falashruti here, that we are able to simply hear and describe this pastime of the Lord and His Boar incarnation. And through that, we're able to achieve this highest, topmost perfection of giving pleasure to the Lord. Like I said, this falashruti appears in many different places in the Bhagavatam, all over the place. And this one is particularly, I think, pretty nice and interesting. And personally, reading through the Bhagavatam, as I read through, and generally when you get to the end of a chapter, and you're like, okay, if you hear this pastime, eventually it becomes, at least to my neophyte mind, seeing this over and over again, it kind of feels like a throwaway, you could say, just like, it's just, okay, I get it, like I'm almost at the end of the chapter, and okay, like this is the obligatory thing that they say at the end of every chapter. But actually, that now that I'm been asked to give class on this specific verse, and I've been kind of just thinking more about this, if you really think about it, it's also extremely relishable, just these simple verses that describe the benefit of listening to the Bhagavatam. We hear it so many different places other than falashrutis as well. What is this? śṛṇvīta svakata Krishna punyashavana kirtana hṛdi su-bhadrāni vidinoti saritsatam, that the Lord will personally cleanse material desires from the heart of one who has developed the urge to hear His messages. So much throughout the Bhagavatam, actually the Bhagavatam is being glorified in the Bhagavatam, which is so interesting and nice. And again, that's another thing that, to my neophyte mind, when I was first reading through the Bhagavatam, I didn't understand it. Why is it just talking about how amazing the Bhagavatam is? Why doesn't it just start talking, what is the Bhagavatam? Like, it's talking, the first few chapters are just glorifying the Bhagavatam, but where's the actual Bhagavatam, So, but when we, again, read more and more and understand more and more through our own experience, seeing that, yes, actually hearing the Bhagavatam is actually living up to what is being advertised here, that, yes, I'm feeling a level of happiness, and this jnana and vairagya, these naturally come about through the process of devotional service, primarily which the first process is hearing. This knowledge, causeless knowledge and detachment from the material world automatically manifest within the heart of the devotee. And so attaining these things, of course, is said to be, it's more or less a side effect, you could say, of hearing the Bhagavatam. It's not the primary goal necessarily to get knowledge and detachment. The primary goal is to attain love of God, and this is so much more superior to those things. But even just those things alone, getting knowledge and detachment from the material world, can greatly reduce our the material pangs, the sufferings in this material world. If we become detached from the material world, we automatically stop suffering so much in many different ways. We're not attached to temporary things that always lead to suffering when they are inevitably taken away from us. But a very important point here, I'm going to be going through some different verses, so if someone could just have it kept up. You can go back to this translation from today. I guess I could probably do it on my phone. You got it? 3:13:48, the one from today. So again, it's a very simple point. This is so many different simple points that we hear over and over and over again. But, one side point on that is that what Chandanacharya Prabhu was saying the other day about coming to Mangalarti and having the right attitude and coming to Mangalarti and realizing that we're here to give pleasure to the Lord at Mangalarti, and we should try not to be moded out, try to get out of the modes of ignorance, and we shouldn't come with the idea that, yes, I'm giving Krishna my association here, I'm going through so much trouble to come here. But no, we're extremely fortunate to come to such a situation. But anyways, the point is that this very first sentence of this translation, or even just these few words, if one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar. So it's qualified. So it's not that if we just hear the Bhagavatam and, if we just go through and read it, and anybody off the street can just hear these narrations and achieve this, like I said, the highest perfection, which is to give pleasure to the Lord. It's not that anybody can actually do that, but it is qualified by this very, very important aspect that we have to do it in a devotional service attitude. And without that, you get into the professional Bhagavatam reciters that are doing it to make some money, and the, people that aren't following the proper siddhanta and aren't understanding philosophically, first of all, that they're not the enjoyer, and approaching it with a cheap mindset, the sahajas, they approach it with the idea that, oh, I'm going to enjoy this. This is not a devotional service attitude, and therefore it won't give any pleasure to the Lord. Similarly, the Mayavadis will also have big programs and have so many people come and hear the Bhagavatam, and they'll speak very devotionally. It sounds like such nice bhakti that they're speaking, and they'll say all these different pastimes, and at the end of their speaking, they'll say, and ultimately, this is all very nice, but we become Krishna, or we merge into Krishna, or something like that. And so, again, it's this idea of milk touched by the lips of a serpent. So actually, it's not pleasing to the Lord at all, and it's very detrimental to the devotee, the aspiring devotee, who is trying to develop that devotional service attitude to hear from such people. So, again, this is a very important qualification in this verse, that that is a conditional statement, that, yeah, we can give pleasure to the Lord by hearing these pastimes, which, again, it's a very, very simple thing. Extremely simple, extremely easy, free, anybody can do it. Doesn't cost anything. Similar to this verse, patram pushpam phalam toyam, that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it, Krishna says. And this, ultimately, the point is that that is actually pleasing to Krishna, to offer these things. So similarly, it's free to hear the narrations of the Lord in the Bhagavatam. It doesn't cost anything. And it's also free to have this devotional service attitude. It doesn't cost us anything. So in one sense, it's extremely easy to please the Lord, which, again, is another thing that if you really think about it is quite mind-blowing, because think about to please somebody that's just living on the street, homeless, maybe you could give them like a plate of prasadam or something like that, or even in a mundane way, you can just give them some food or just a place to stay for the night, and they'll be very pleased, right? But if you go try to, please some rich man, Elon Musk or something like that, he will, require so much more opulent offerings to actually give him something, to make him pleased. You can't just say, hey, here's a hotel room for you for the night. He won't care. It won't give him any pleasure. And so if you extrapolate that out to the Supreme Lord himself, who is infinitely more opulent than the richest man in this world, and, he owns everything, so we actually can't offer him anything. And he's so much, larger than us. We're so insignificant in comparison. And so you would think, logically in that way, that, oh, well, I must have to be able to offer something so, incredibly valuable to him. Like, for example, something like Bali Maharaj offering, the entire universe, that, that kind of things. But it's almost like a contradiction, or it's something that reveals the sweetness and the humility and the approachability of the Lord is that he accepts such simple offerings, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, or simply even just hearing about him with the proper attitude. These are so, such amazing things that we can just simply hear about the Lord, and he considers this actually service. He considers that this is service. This śravanam, kirtanam, so hearing about him, chanting about him, remembering him. Very simple, easy things to do. And he considers that my devotee is serving me by doing these things. So it's actually so amazing that, what materialist, what conditioned soul would think that, oh yeah, if someone just, thinks about me, then I consider that they're doing very nice service for me. That's not. They would demand that you actually do something physically and, go make me some money or, give me this gift or whatever it is, something to increase their sense gratification. But again, the Lord is so kind that he allows us to serve him in such seemingly simple ways. In one sense, it's very approachable, very easy. But in another sense, it's actually very, very difficult for the conditioned soul who is so used to seeking their own pleasure, their own sense gratification in every aspect of their life. And we bring that into devotional service, that, how can I get some pleasure out of this? And to some extent that is, of course, understood and accepted at the beginning of devotional service. That, I remember when I first came here and I thought, wow, the prasīdati is so amazing, the kirtan is so amazing. And I was like, yeah, I can really enjoy being here. It wasn't an idea of, well, if I come stay here, then I can please Krishna. I didn't have any conception of that idea. But that comes, over time as we engage in devotional service. So it's there in some extent that the process of devotional service and all the different aspects of devotional service are very pleasing and very enjoyable. But, again, back to this idea of Mangalarti, we can come to it with the idea of, let's, get fired up and really enjoy this kirtan. And, especially when everyone comes back from traveling Sankirtan, it's very, lively. And, well, especially in the festivals, and when Bhakti Vikas Maharaj is here and we have so many devotees, and it's like, I really enjoyed that Mangalarti. But we should cultivate and reframe our mindset, because this mindset is what actually keeps us seeking sense gratification. And as long as we are, in devotional service, we might be able to go on for some time with that mindset of, yes, this is very enjoyable, but as soon as there's some challenge, or as soon as it's not so, pleasing to our senses to engage in devotional service, and as soon as some idea comes up of some other way I can enjoy, then immediately, because we haven't flipped that switch, we haven't changed from everything for my pleasure to everything for the pleasure of the Lord, as soon as something appealing comes up, we'll just go to that. We'll just gravitate towards that, because we haven't rewired that aspect of our consciousness. Let's see here. So, again, there's just so much packed into that very first sentence of the translation here. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude. And let's see here. There's one verse I'm going to pull up. Let me find it. Yeah, there's many different verses I could quote here. So you can go to Bhagavad Gita 4:3. Chapter 4, text 3. Sa evayam maya tedya yogav proktaf puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So again, this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and he's qualifying it. Because you are my devotee, therefore you can understand the science of Krishna consciousness and all these things. So nobody else is actually qualified to understand these things and to develop this perfection of again, pleasing the Lord and understanding our relationship with Him. let's see here. So yeah. So again, if you go to 1-17, like I quoted it before, śṛṇvītam svakata Krishna, punyashravana kirtanaha, hṛdi su-bhadrām vidinoti etāṁ. I want to read that translation and purport. Sri Krishna, the Personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Purport. Messages of the Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. So, this is, again, it's so amazing. It is very much related to the verse we're reading today, that hearing these pastimes, as we've been hearing of Lord Varaha, well, first of all, it pleases the Lord, which is pretty amazing. And then, as this verse is saying, the Lord himself is already situated within everyone's heart. And for the devotee who has been hearing these messages and developed the urge, specifically said, developed the urge to hear his messages, Krishna himself, who is already within our heart, will personally cleanse this desire for material enjoyment from our heart. So, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, it appears so many different places, but that's pretty amazing. That's pretty mind-blowing that Krishna, who is there within our heart, and ultimately accompanying us through so many different births, so many different horrible situations. We go heavenly planets, we go down to hellish planets, we go animal life, so many different places, and he's accompanying us the whole time. But he will personally cleanse our heart in order to clean it enough where he can sit on our heart and actually, be perceived by us within the heart. And this point that Prabhupada is making in the very beginning of the purport here, that Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally, and that messages of the Personality of Godhead are non-different from him. So again, I was talking about this in my last class, but it's also, it's just something that we should meditate upon very, often and frequently, is that the messages of Krishna, his pastimes, his name, his form, the form of the deity, all these things are non-different from him. And again, this is something that if we truly understood the import of this statement, we would be experiencing such bliss and pleasure we couldn't fathom it. What happened when Dhruva Maharaj saw the Lord after executing so many austerities. He had this idea that I want to enjoy this kingdom greater than my father's and all this. Very, you could say large material desire to enjoy in such a way. But as soon as he took darshan of the Lord, that was completely eradicated from his heart. So if we actually, again, and we can take darshan of the Lord by simply purely perceiving that his name is not different from him, that these pastimes are not different from him. This is the same as taking direct darshan of the Lord, seeing him right in front of your face like Dhruva Maharaj did. So if we actually purely perceive that in the proper way, all of our material desires would be eradicated instantly. So how far are we from that? At least myself, that how far is it that so many material desires are still there in the heart? So we're obviously not perceiving it correctly. We're not perceiving it purely and seeing that actually this Bhagavatam is Krishna. And, he mercifully comes down to the material world to display his pastimes. And as Prabhupada is saying in the purport for today, that out of his causeless mercy only, the Lord comes to this earth and leaves behind his merciful activities so that the devotees may derive transcendental benefit, to the very bottom. So, out of his causeless mercy, he comes to this world, and again, he displays so many different amazing pastimes. And we might think that, I missed it. I wasn't there. I didn't get to see these pastimes, and those that were there and got to witness it are so much more lucky or fortunate than myself. I wasn't here to witness, to see Srila Prabhupada when he was on the plane. I wasn't here to see Lord Chaitanya. I wasn't here to see Krishna, his pastimes. But actually, as is being said here, that he leaves behind his merciful activities so that devotees may derive transcendental benefit. So Krishna came at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and he left, right, and that began Kali Yuga, but he didn't actually leave. He didn't leave. He left this Bhagavatam here, which we can read, which again, as I just explained, is non-different from Krishna, completely the same as Krishna, and he left his holy name, again, also same as Krishna. So he's still present, and we can still take the full benefit of associating directly with the Lord anytime we want, at any moment. We can simply chant the names, read the pastimes of Krishna. So it's very, very, very simple. And again, this idea of the pastimes of the Lord and relishing those is over and over and over again emphasized throughout the Bhagavatam. But one problem may come about that, like I said, that we're not able to fully understand the potency of such pastimes. We're not able to fully understand that it's non-different from the Lord. And so what do we do? Because again, in this verse that I said, śṛṇvītam sakata Krishna, in the translation it says, Krishna will come and he will cleanse the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, but only if they develop this urge to hear his messages. So what if we don't have that urge? What if we have the urge to hear mundane messages and, mundane literatures and all these different things? Which, as, again, is being explained in this purport for today, they are neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they're of the inferior quality of material nature. So all these mundane narrations that we're so attracted to hearing have the opposite effect of hearing the translation or hearing the narrations of the Lord. Narrations of the Lord liberate us from material existence. I just caught this in the word for word. Hari-medhasaḥ is said in this verse today, who destroys the material existence of the devotee. So hearing these pastimes destroys our material existence, whereas hearing the mundane pastimes and mundane literatures and stories and narrations that conditioned souls are so attracted to only binds us further and further in the material world. So it's not auspicious at all. But again, so this point, who has developed the urge to hear his messages? If we haven't developed the urge, then what are we meant to do? How do we develop that urge? It's actually answered in the previous verse. So 1-16. Shushusho sharadhanasya vasudeva katarujihi syanmahat sevaya vipra punya tirtha nishevanat. 1-16. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So there we go. So if we don't have that, as it's explained before, the urge to hear about Krishna, we simply serve the devotees who are freed from all vice, pure devotees. We just simply serve pure devotees, and automatically we'll gain this affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So it's very simple. It's actually very simple. And again, this idea that Krishna is so great, how can I please him? And of course, we understand that he is pleased by offering him very simple offerings and by simply hearing about him and all these things. But we come into devotional service and we don't necessarily have taste for hearing about Krishna or serving Krishna, these different things. And it can be quite abstract, quite seem very far away. We hear about the experiences and the consciousness that the pure devotees are experiencing, that they're always relishing the pastimes of the Lord, and they're experiencing these ecstatic symptoms and et cetera, et cetera. Prabhupada said that he was always seeing Krishna. It seems so far away from us, but again, due to the mercy of the Lord, he sends his representative in the form of the pure devotee. And this is someone that we can actually directly see with our eyes, interact with, talk to, serve, and experience that reciprocation with them in a very tangible way that we are, as conditioned souls, we're able to much more easily perceive, you could say. And it seems much more approachable to approach, someone who is, again, of course, they're not a ordinary person or anything like that, but they're very mercifully there. They're answering our questions. They're giving us, they're speaking about Krishna. They're giving us knowledge of Krishna. They're helping to distill the knowledge that is in these literatures in a way that we can actually understand, as Prabhupada has done. Again, if Prabhupada wasn't there, if he hadn't come, we never would have heard of the Bhagavatam. It would, maybe it would be translated into English, but it definitely wouldn't have the purports that explain the meaning behind what is being said. Because even with the purports, especially coming from an American background and 21st century, it's still so difficult to understand actually what's being said. But the purports is what actually gives us the opportunity to really actually understand it. And the purports, and also the very important aspect of devotee association and being around devotees. I know that I tried to read the Bhagavad Gita before I met devotees, and I might as well have been reading Chinese. I didn't understand anything that was said, and it was all these Sanskrit names and words, and I just went completely over my head. I'm not a very intelligent person, but as soon as I got around devotees, they mercifully explain it to you in a very simple way. Okay, you're not the body. That's the first understanding. Okay, we're spirit soul, and our constitutional position is servants of Krishna. Okay, and this is backed up by this, this, and this, and so many things. And you simply engage in this process, and you're engaging all your senses in the service of Krishna. The senses are, naturally want to engage in something. They can't be completely disengaged, and so in this way, they give very simple, step-by-step process of devotional service that anybody can, again, take up and engage in. Prabhupada came and he gave harinam, kirtan and harinam and prasadam, and very simple things. And of course, he gave the philosophy as well. And he specifically mentioned that this is what would make them devotees, make the Westerners devotees, and purify them. In his Marking Bhagavad Dharma, this bhajan that he wrote. And he quoted this, again, this śṛṇvīta sakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana. He quoted that within that bhajan. But Prabhupada came and gave this simple process. He didn't immediately require everyone to shave their heads and wear dhoti on the first day and, follow. And what is this? He said that if I told you all the rules and regulations, you would faint. He said that? Yeah. So there's so many different rules and regulations that he could have, came and immediately given us the most, strict thing. But then people wouldn't have taken to it in such a way. So he was very expert and, the most expert in engaging the devotee or the jivas, the conditioned souls, in such a way that they could actually take up devotional service and practice it in a lifelong, capacity. And to this day, there's so many Prabhupada disciples, and many have left this world, but so many of them are still going on and practicing for life. Again, coming from a complete opposite background, complete opposite cultural background, where not only were they sense gratifiers, but they were the maximum level, you could say. They're, just completely engaging in all kinds of crazy stuff, as many of them are hippies and things like that. So again, the point is that if we're not able to develop this taste, and we're not able to develop it actually on our own, just coming off the street, if we got a Bhagavatam and we read this verse today, if you hear in a devotional service attitude the auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. This, again, it would be completely meaningless to someone on the street that has no conception of devotional service. First of all, okay, Lord Boar, what is that? And then hearing in a devotional service attitude, there's no conception of what that even means. And then pleasing the Lord, who cares? Nobody on the street cares about giving pleasure to the Lord. Why would they do that, Why would it be beneficial to them at all? So all these things are broken down for us. And so now, if we practice devotional service and stay in the association of devotees, read through the Bhagavatam, then a verse like this, actually, like I said, it could be unpacked so much. And, every single different phrase that's in this, just in this translation alone, can actually be extrapolated and understood in so many different ways. And the value, again, of pleasing the Lord, and the value of being hearing and chanting these things in this devotional service attitude, again, it can be infinitely extrapolated and meditated upon and relished. I was speaking to my mom the other day, first time in a while, and she was saying, like, one thing she said that stuck me was like, I just don't understand, like, it must be so boring what you do. You've been there for years, and like you just do the same thing every day, and you don't get to like go out and like go to restaurants or go this or that. And it just actually is, again, it's this inconceivable thing to the karmis, to non-devotees, how this can be something that's very relishable and very nice and very pleasurable, and that we would even think about putting the pleasure of God before our own pleasure. Again, we're, maybe we might not be on that level yet, that we're actually fully dedicated to that, and that we are completely, have no idea of our own pleasure or anything like that, and that we're not seeking after that. But that we have that principle is not comprehensible to the non-devotees. That we would put the pleasure of God before us. How do you even know that God is getting pleasure? And I mean, most people are, even if they're religious, it's actually their actions are more atheistic than theistic in many ways. And even in Christianity, their idea is that, God has created this world for us to enjoy. So this idea, again, is so foreign, so alien. And I was just thinking about that. It's kind of, they just can't understand. You can't explain it to them either. Again, it's this idea of licking the outside of the bottle of the honey. You have to actually taste the process of devotional service in order to have any kind of conception of the value of it, right? And so, again, even if we've tasted it a little bit and only been here for some time and only, chanted so many rounds, whatever. We've only been here for so long. We still have so many material desires. We're still very conditioned, and it seems so far away that we're going to become purified. If we simply observe the pure devotee, we can see how they are relishing the messages of the Lord, how they are relishing their chanting, how they're relishing speaking about the Lord. And I see this, again, I bring this up a lot, but just having the opportunity to associate with my Guru Maharaj, many times when I was, over there, we were giving massage, and he would listen to different, pastimes. Specifically, a lot of times I heard him listening to pastimes of, Lord Chaitanya. And you can just see, when he's hearing these pastimes, he's, actually relishing them. He's got a big smile on his face, and he's just completely engrossed in hearing what is being said. And, again, it seems so far away from what I've ever experienced myself, but it gives some level of hope, some level of motivation and hope to continue on, because this is the promise of what is to come, is that by serving the spiritual master, by serving the pure devotees, we'll develop the ability to the attraction to hearing the messages of the Lord. And then by developing that attraction and by hearing these messages of the Lord, we will, the Lord within our heart will cleanse our desire for material enjoyment. And then we'll actually be able to relish these messages. Because as long as we have any kind of trace of material desire, we're not actually able to experience the true nectar of the pastimes of the Lord. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. Should I keep going or open it for questions? Because offering just went up, so there's a few more things. Let me see here. Yeah, another point I wanted to make is that there's this, let me see if I can find this lecture. This one lecture by my Guru Maharaj. The title is very relevant. Yeah, so it's called Why Stories of Krishna Live On. And so, again, this is a interesting point, is that the pastimes of Krishna, so many of the demons, he killed so many demons, and many of the stories are like, yeah, this demon came in and they were, in this group of friends, and he just punched it and it died. And so it's like, if you saw that in like a book or like a movie or something, you'd be like, what, that's it? Like, imagine you just go to the movie theater and you get in there and then it's just like, okay, there's a guy and he punched him and he died. That's it. That's the whole movie. So it doesn't seem so like exciting. I mean, sometimes it's quite, amazing. And all the pastimes of Krishna are actually very wonderful. But from our mundane perception, the point is that it can seem like, why are we attracted? Why are people listening to this? Why is it so amazing? And yet, the Bhagavatam has persisted for, 5,000 years now? And still to this day, so many devotees are engaged in, not only are we listening to this Bhagavatam and hearing it, like a mundane person will listen to movies or something. It's not like that at all. Actually, we're literally giving our lives to this literature. We're dedicating our mind, body, and soul to this literature. We're trying to give up everything else simply to hear the Bhagavatam. And again, to the mundane, mental speculator and all these people, they say, why are they doing it? Because these stories, okay, like there's some stories in there, but what's the point? What's the point of it? They can't understand. Krishna's pastimes aren't going to make it to the New York Times bestseller. They have all these books where there's plot twists and, love triangles and this and that, and so many different crazy things happen. And, so it's not like that. But again, the point is that these pastimes and hearing these pastimes, as it said in the purport here, that everyone is fond of hearing some wonderful narration. We want to hear some stories, but the auspicious nature of the pastimes of Krishna is so profound that, again, it's literally the opposite of these mundane stories, that it's actually liberating us from material existence. It's destroying all of our material desires. It's, and it's amazing. And so the pastimes of Krishna also, another very interesting aspect of it that I like to meditate upon is that Krishna accomplishes so many different things by doing one thing. By doing one simple activity, he's actually accomplishing many, many different things. So for example, the Govardhan Leela, at the same time, he gave pleasure to Govardhan by lifting it, and he protected his devotees, and he chastised Indra, or he destroyed the pride of Indra. And as I was hearing my Guru Maharaj speak about this, that you probably all know this already, but the fact that this pastime stands unique because it is the one where Krishna reciprocates with all the different rasas at the same time. So his parents and those in that Vatsalya ras were, concerned with him because he was, they thought he would get tired from holding it up. And all the residents of Vrindavan were there, so all the different, rasas were there. And so he was holding it, and so they got, the cowherd men tried to hold it up and give Krishna a break, but then Govardhan started shaking and Krishna held it again. And then the gopis got the chance to look at Krishna for a week straight and without, any problem because everyone was looking at him. And so they didn't have to be worried about their relatives seeing them looking at Krishna because everyone was looking at Krishna. So all the rasas, everyone, all their different residents of Vrindavan got to relish, and Krishna was reciprocating with all of them at the same time, which is pretty amazing. And let's see here. Yeah, another very important aspect that I didn't cover is that it's actually a very elevated position to be hearing these pastimes and relishing these pastimes and it's not something, again, like I was saying, when we develop the urge to hear them, then our material desires are eradicated. But as that process is ongoing, it's not that we should just become in the mindset of, well, let me just hear these pastimes all the time. We have to, this is why Prabhupada, for the most part, he was speaking on very simple philosophy, very basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. You're not the body, we're not the enjoyers, we're not the controllers, we're servants of Krishna, etc., etc., etc. We should develop this understanding of very basic philosophy and understanding that we're actually meant to give Krishna pleasure. Otherwise, we might fall into this trap of, again, this sahajism and taking things very cheaply. And actually, if we don't have the proper attitude and mood and understanding philosophically, and we try to approach these pastimes, it can actually have the opposite effect of what's intended. So we should be very careful in that way. And we should hear the pastimes of the Lord, but also we should, we should follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and the predecessor acharyas, that emphasizing the basic tenets of Krishna consciousness. And again, because Prabhupada was preaching in the West, where people don't have any kind of conception of spiritual life, he very much emphasized these basics over and over and over again. And that, again, applies today as well. Maybe even more so, that people are less spiritually inclined and have less spiritual knowledge than ever before. So it's important that we listen to these pastimes, but also at the same time not dive into just hearing that at all. So that's everything I wanted to cover. If there's any comments or questions, please feel free to ask.
There's some really cool quotes in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita on this point about reading the Vedic literatures as opposed to reading mundane literatures. There's just two here in the introduction. In life, we are accustomed to thinking either of the material or the spiritual energy. There are so many literatures which fill our thoughts with the material energy, newspapers, novels, etc. Our thinking, which is now absorbed in these literatures, must be transferred to the Vedic literatures. And one other one. We must always engage our minds in reading these Vedic literatures, just as materialists engage their minds in reading newspapers, magazines, and so many materialistic literatures. We must transfer our reading to these literatures which are given to us by Vyasadeva. In that way, it will be possible for us to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. That is the only way suggested by the Lord, and he guarantees the result. Quote, there is no doubt, Bhagavad Gita 8:7. So those were both from the introduction, but they're really fired up. So we hear people everywhere have such a taste for hearing and speaking about like mundane drama of this world. It's very surprising somehow, because there's no taste in it. It's so boring and unpleasurable. But you'll hear so many people say, this person said that. Oh, really? Yeah, and did you hear what the other person said about what he said? Oh, what did they say? And oh, this person said this. It's like, you can go on and on and on. She said that about him. Yeah, but what did he say about her? Wow. And it's like all day long people can go like 7 days, 7 nights, no eating, no sleeping. I don't know how it's so boring, but when there's actually one thing I've noticed, at least in Srila Prabhupada's books and the books of his disciples, the drama of Krishna's pastimes is there's so much more going on. There's like, people have this saying now, like, I get the tea. When something's really dramatic, they call it the tea. The tea that goes on in Krishna's lifetime, and the experiences of his devotees that we read about. There's so much more. It's insane. You know, you've got Akrura at one point. He's like worshiping Krishna's lotus footprints in the dust of Vrindavan. And then, I don't know, it's not so long later, you hear how he's part of some sort of murder conspiracy to kill someone who's related to Krishna. It's like, what is going on here? So it seems that the drama to hear about in the Vedic literatures is at a much higher level than whatever it is that people get attracted to here.
Also like Ramayana and Mahabharata, all these things.
Yeah, Ramayana is wild.
Yeah. Anything else? I had one more thing I wanted to read.
I was just thinking about this point that you said that, like, if you try to please, like, it's very easy to please, like, the homeless guy on the street. You just give him a plate of food, he's happy. But if you try to please, like, the richest man in the world, you have to give, like, a lot more opulence or whatever. I was thinking about this past time where Krishna is offered a feast by Duryodhan, and he rejects the whole thing because he's like, it's not offered with love. That's the real reason. He didn't say that, but...
Yeah.
And then he goes to like Vidura's house, and his wife gives him like she throws away the banana and gives him the peel.
Yeah.
And he's happily eating that.
Yeah.
What really pleases the Lord is the love and devotion.
Yeah.
That's offered in that, and you can really see that in the material world as well. There's like this I guess mundane example where Ronaldo, he dresses up as a homeless man, like. Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer guy. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So he dresses up as a homeless man and like just starts playing soccer on the street, and no one recognizes him, and everyone just ignores him. But he's pleased when like this one little boy just like starts playing with him for like 20 minutes or something. He like signed the ball and gave it to him. So you can see even like we are pleased when like when we're like offered like love, sincerity, these kinds of things.
Right.
Like if someone offered Ronaldo a $100 bill while he was doing that gig, I think he probably would have been offended or something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Yes.
You were mentioning the what is it? Fall? At the end of the chapter. Śṛṇvīta.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we see those things like manifest in the lifetime of devotees who like hear these pastimes? And if
did they get
why
the benefits, you're saying? Did they get the benefits as being said?
Or is it like a next lifetime thing, or is devotees don't get it because Krishna just wants to bring them back to home, or what's going on there? Because it seems like some of them are kind of like something far out. It's like if you hear this pastime, you'll become the most famous person in the world and like rule the universe. And this, and then it's like, well, I know a lot of people who heard it, and it doesn't seem like they're in that position.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just wondering if there are some examples of it or what's going on.
Well, yeah, in terms of that becoming the most famous. I mean, the thing is, the devotee has real fame. Like, it's, the devotee is eternally famous, and that's what real fame is, not on the mundane platform, the fame of a devotee. So that's one thing. But, yeah, I'm not so sure about this. Yes, Prabhu.
I was going to try to look for a reference on this, but to my understanding, Krishna will never fulfill a desire that'll like pull someone who's trying to cultivate, I guess, Krishna consciousness. Like, he's not going to give them something that's going to be averse to them cultivating that. So, to my understanding, I guess if the fruits of hearing certain stories and whatnot, like it's there, of course, but if it's going to pull them further away from Krishna, then I don't think that he's going to be inclined to actually fulfill that. I was trying to find a reference on where I'd read that, but I know that's generally the case.
There's this one for Dhruva Maharaj. It's 4:12:47. Anyone who hears this narration of Dhruva Maharaj acquires exalted qualities like him. For anyone who desires greatness, prowess, or influence, here is the process by which to acquire them. And for thoughtful men who want adoration, here is the proper means. So, it's interesting because it's like, for men who want adoration, but the devotee doesn't necessarily want adoration. But, I mean, my understanding of this is that anyone who's, again, purely hearing the Bhagavatam and hearing these pastimes, and they're pure devotee, that they automatically are going to get this greatness, prowess, influence, and adoration. They might not necessarily want adoration. I mean, again, the pure devotee isn't seeking after their own greatness, prowess, or influence or anything like that, but it comes as a side effect. Just like, Prabhupada wasn't trying to become, some famous person and all this, but it just happened naturally because he's, pure devotee of Krishna, and naturally his glories are going to be spread, and he's, put into movement this revolution that's going to continue on for many, many years, and these are the law books for the next, 10,000 years, he said? Yeah. So he has extreme influence, I mean, he's must be the most influential person in, very, very long time. Greatness, prowess, I mean, his prowess is unmatched. And adoration, I mean, the devotees, followers of Srila Prabhupada have great adoration for him, I see so many, like, Prabhupada disciples, like we were meeting with Lord Boar, and his adoration for Prabhupada is so tangible. So, I mean, all these things come automatically.
Do you think it's to encourage like those who would otherwise like, do you think like these Palashrutis, they encourage those who wouldn't be attracted to the Lord, but who are materially motivated? Because we hear that like Srimad Bhagavatam is, for Paramahamsas, and that, and it says these things in Bhagavatam, but Paramahamsas aren't really interested in that. The only fruit they're really interested in is just the pastime itself. So if it's like made for Paramahamsas and then they're putting it in, I don't know, it's kind of confusing. Is it that, to even those who are materially motivated, to attract even those people to the lotus feet of the Lord?
Yeah, the problem comes, though, that if you're materially motivated, then it doesn't please the Lord, your hearing and chanting of these pastimes. So you might not necessarily get the fruit, right?
So it's understood that all these these fruits aren't really like material benedictions, but like they're understood that they take some spiritual like shape, like you're saying, like influence or prowess, but it's like prowess and influence like in the spiritual sense.
Spiritual sense. Yeah, I mean, acquiring some material benefit, material benefits might come as a result of devotional service, but it's not at all the goal. And it's not that the Bhagavatam is saying, if you read the Bhagavatam, then you'll get all these material things. I mean, it's quite the opposite. Literally, this verse is saying that this hari-medhasaḥ, who destroys the material existence of the devotee. So it's not saying that it destroys the material desires of the devotee, or the inauspicious situations materially, but the material existence. So our very existence in the material world is destroyed. So I think it would be a stretch to say that you're getting some kind of material benefit from, I mean, material benefits can come automatically, the Lord takes care of his devotee in such a way, materially. But yes, Prabhu, you have something?
There is one instance I could think of where the Bhagavatam does give a material benediction. In the Kaliya, the Palashruti for the Kaliya serpent pastime, the Palashruti is that those who hear this pastime, they don't get attacked by snakes.
Yeah.
So, hey, I mean, it just offers all sorts of benedictions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Is it? Anything else? Mataris? Yes.
You were speaking about how we need to basically fix our consciousness from having this enjoying mentality. For example, like if it's like if we enjoyed a kirtan or something, we shouldn't say like that. So how should we speak? And like how do we say that instead? Like, oh, I really enjoyed this kirtan, or I really enjoyed this prasādam, but that's like the enjoying mentality. So how do we like speak instead?
Yeah, so I mean, naturally it'll be there, that there's enjoyment there, but our consciousness should be fixed on giving pleasure to the Lord. So, what is this that we say that? Mahotsar Prabhu says this a lot, that this, instead of saying we're going to enjoy this prasadam, say this prasadam is going to enjoy us. So the Lord is enjoying us. Then when we're in kirtan, He's the Lord is there, and we're glorifying Him, and He's enjoying His devotees, praising him and glorifying him in that way. So yeah, it's kind of like a weird like grammatical thing, I guess you could say, that there's nothing wrong with like, oh, that was nice kirtan and that kind of thing, but the understanding, at least internally, should be, and it should be spoken also as well and understood by other devotees, that we're doing this ultimately not for our own pleasure alone, but we're secondary enjoyers. So again, that enjoyment is still there, but in a secondary sense, and it's only when it's related to Krishna's enjoyment that it's proper. So if it's trying to, we see this unfortunately in our society a lot with these like kirtan melas and such, where, for example, the people performing the kirtan will be on a stage raised up, and there'll be like some pictures of Krishna here and there, but it's not that, the proper thing is that actually the devotees are looking at the deities or, at Krishna while they're performing the kirtan. And instead, this becomes a concert where there's, the audience, and it's literally like going to like a music festival where everyone's packed in and they're like, getting all sweaty and dancing in like a pit, and then there's people on the stage and they're like being worshipped. Actually, it's completely improper. And even if it's not like on the stage, but you see sometimes they'll be in a temple room, but they'll be off to the side, like the kirtan player, they'll be over here, and everyone will be here facing them, and the deities are here. So nobody's looking at the deities, they're just looking at the people playing the kirtan. So that's where that wrong mentality creeps in. But yeah, as long as Krishna's in the center, his enjoyment is the center, and we understand that philosophically, then yeah, it's still a pleasure. Of course, it's a pleasurable experience because we're in our constitutional position in that way. Ms. Mata, do you have something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just had. Is on? You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I just had a question. So, how do we know when? Maybe it's a similar question to what she had, or maybe like an expansion of her question. But how do we know when the service that we're rendering is pleasing to Krishna, or we're just concocting some enjoyment from receiving the result of our service?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just have to see if it's in line with Guru Sadhu Shastra. It's very simple. Is this what my spiritual master has asked me to do? Would this be pleasing to him? And we can have a very simple mentality in that way. At least I like to think that, okay, if my spiritual master was right here watching me do this, would he be pleased or not? Am I doing it in a proper way or not? So it's very simple in that way. It's not that we experience necessarily some, extreme like reciprocation from Krishna, and like we, have some crazy symptom or something like that, where, oh yes, this was pleasing to Krishna. It's not so. As long as we're conditioned souls, we're not directly able to perceive these things. But again, following, our guru, and then following senior devotees, asking them, hey, is this, proper what I'm doing? And, you'll see even, much of the service we do might not directly be seen by even our spiritual master, but a lot of times it'll be seen by devotees around us, and we can see, are they pleased or not? Like for example, book distributors, like they do so many books, and then they come back, and like Vishnu Chitta Prabhu, like last night I saw, like he's like, wow, Abhi did so many books, like he was very pleased. So okay, that must be pleasing to Krishna because he's pleased his devotee. And so we were able to see directly the devotees are pleased, and that those devotees that are properly situated philosophically, they're being pleased by what I'm doing. Okay, then I must be doing something correctly. And if they're displeased, okay, I should readjust my attitude. Okay, good.
Thank you. Also, what was the name of the lecture
Yeah, it's
of the pastimes?
Why Stories of Krishna Live On. Okay. 9:03. Is it quick? person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desire or without material desire, desiring liberation, by all means should worship the supreme whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so we understand by the acharyas it's not fully pleasing to Krishna, but even in the Gita, Krishna gives that like gradation, like you can't do this, do this, do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Knowledge, do this. So yeah, it would seem like that's there, like it's not completely satisfying Krishna, but they may be there just to attract people to keep coming to the Bhagavatam, gradually get purified.
Sure.
Like that.
Okay. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyascha. Krishna Nam Bhagavata Vaishnava Devam.